Welcome to the Signal Pres podcast.
Welcome to the Signal Pres podcast, the place for you to learn, to grow, and to get connected to the body of Christ here at Signal Pres. I'm Joey Sherrod. I am one of your hosts.
And I'm Abby Hutto. I am also one of your hosts.
And listeners, as you hear this episode, you're in the month of October, one of my favorite months. Is that one of your favorite months, Abby?
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the best months to be on the mountain.
The best.
And we're actually... end the podcast, because we love October so much, it's actually a themed month for us. It's a month of Presbyterianism. It's a month of Presbyterian theology. It's all centered around the letter P. And it's also a month of Ken Pierce.
Ken Pierce.
Welcome to the podcast.
Where are you going with this?
I don't know sometimes, but it's good to have you on the podcast, Ken.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
All right. Welcome.
We are not actually going to be talking about Presbyterianism in this podcast.
That's right.
That's for the rest of the month.
I know. We're just building anticipation.
Okay.
People are like, yes. I want to hear about
It's exactly what everyone said when they heard you say that.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, there was like a noticeable jump in our ratings,
Yeah.
like just when I said that word.
Mm-hmm.
But Ken, you have been on the job for how many weeks now?
I think this is my fourth week.
Fourth week.
That seems right.
Yeah. Fitting in well. Good to have you around.
Thank you.
Down in the office, we made sure Ken could be on our side of the office for all the fun that we have down on our side.
And the snacks are on our side.
The snacks. Yes. So much fun. Ken, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about family and place and all the things.
Sure. I am married to my wife's Aisyah. She is from Indonesia, in case you're wondering about that name. It's an Arabic name, so and with an Arabic spelling. So if you see it written, you won't pronounce it properly. So don't worry about it. We have two kids, one of each flavor. My son and daughter both live in Austin, Texas, where they both followed jobs there, basically. Well, actually, my son followed a young lady there. That didn't work out. Found another one.
Okay.
But... yeah, that's what took him there initially, I think. And so they're both there. They love the foodie culture of Austin, but they don't like the heat.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't either. So I try to only go not during the summer, which is 9 monts out of the year.
I was going to say, I was just in Texas this week, and it was like, I asked them when it would finally get cold, and they said around Christmas.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
And cold for them is... 50 degrees. So, and one grandson.
Yay!
Nathaniel.
And how old is Nathaniel?
Nathaniel just turned 1.
Aww.
So, my wife and I have been together for 40 years now.
All right.
Wow! Congratulations.
Congrats.
Thanks. Yeah.
That's really
awesome.
fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will get to know you throughout the rest of the podcast. But first, we're going to get to know you a Skittle. We're going to play our Skittle game with Ken.
Pop one out
So,
here.
Ken has been an intro to Signal Press, so he's already had to play the Skittle game once, at least.
That's right.
But we're going to play it again.
First of many times.
It's green. And the podcast that I enjoy listening to is called The Holy Post.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that.
Have you heard about that?
I don't know anything about it.
Oh, he actually is good friends with one of the podcasters there.
That's right.
Who's your friend?
Esau McCauley.
Esau
I
McCauley.
didn't know that's what that was called.
Yeah.
What do you like about the podcast?
I like it because, so the podcast is Phil Vischer is the kind of the brains and the money behind it. He's the guy who did VeggieTales.
Oh, fun.
Right, and then sold it for trillions and chunks of money.
It was a lucrative vegetable for him.
Exactly.
That's right. But they will, for the first 30 minutes or so, will chat about current affairs and issues. They'll read something from the news that's kind of funny. That's Phil's version of that. That's his plus. He's a jokester. But they have, and so there's Phil, and there's Sky Jatani, and there is Caitlin. What's Caitlin's last name?
Shess.
That's right. And then an occasional Esau McCauley. He's not regular. He's kind of fairly occasional. But,
Yeah. He's got his own podcast too, which is creatively called The Esau McCauley Show.
Yes, exactly.
That I would have understood.
Caitlin is kind of their, Caitlin and Sky are kind of the brainiacs and the theologians. And they're just they're very smart and they're very winsome. They're good communicators. They know how to say things succinctly, which I don't. And they, I like their thought process and how they think about things. So I just enjoy, and then they'll interview someone, usually someone doing a book plug or something like that. But the interviews are always interesting and engaging as well. And they probably theologically fit somewhere mostly in my camp. So you always listen to things that, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, that you tend to agree with. So I tend to lean in towards the same way they lean in on everything from politics to theology and to
well, that's
life.
fun.
Yeah.
We are many things on this podcast, but succinct, I don't think would be one of them.
No, you guys are. I've listened.
We should work on that.
Yeah.
Pretty well, yeah.
I mean, just imagine what it would be like if we didn't try. Yeah.
This is us trying. All right. Well, thank you. That is fun. A fun little tidbit to know about you. So now those who listen to that podcast will have something to connect with you over.
The Holy
Which is
Post.
fun. The Holy Post. All right. So we'd love to hear a little more about your story. And you mentioned that you and Aisyah have been married for 40 years. So isn't it fun how as we are with someone for a long time, their stories kind of become our stories as well. And so we'd love to hear, you told me before the podcast that you've actually won a contest by telling yours / Aisha / your story.
Yes,
so let's
true.
hear this award-winning story.
Yes, it is an award-winning story, and the swag was amazing. It was a J103 Valentine's Day love story contest, and I think it was about 17 or 18 years ago when I first lived here. So we met in university at college, and she was an international student. I was transferring from another school that one class didn't transfer. And so I had to retake it. And since I was in the third year and she was in the first year, normally we wouldn't have these 100 level classes together, but we did. Coincidentally, I had just been to Indonesia, where she's from. And so I don't know really how I knew she was from Indonesia, but somehow maybe she announced it in class or something like that. I don't remember. It was a sociology class. And so so I just went up to her afterwards in class and said something in Indonesian thinking, that'd be impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good party trick.
Yeah. And she said, her response was, I speak English. And I said, well, sure, you're at an English-speaking school, but, she goes, more importantly, why do you speak Indonesian so badly? And
This is no shrinking violet you're dealing with.
That's right. And to this day, if I try to speak Indonesian to her, she speaks English back to me. Because she still is embarrassed by my accent, I think. So I get it, though. I've heard other English-speaking people speak Indonesian, and I hear the difference. I'm like, oh, that's terrible. So, that must be how I sound. No wonder she's embarrassed. She did the same thing with my Spanish. We were in Mexico once, and I was trying my best to that 1 year of Spanish I took in college.
Yeah.
And she just said, honey, please
Just stop.
Just quit. It's embarrassing. So at any rate, we met in the sociology class. I found out through talking to her and some other students that she was a Muslim. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. She's coming here. And it was a sort of a Christian school, not totally, nothing like a Moody or somewhere like that. But nonetheless, it had a Christian affiliation, Presbyterian. And I thought this would be interesting. So I started asking her what she knew about Christianity and the Bible, and our conversations continued on. And what happened was that she realized that, and you don't know this part of the story, Joey, but she realized that because it did have a Christian affiliation, she had to take a Bible class. And she was so nervous about it. So she asked me, she goes, and I was a philosophy religion major. And so she's like, so this is your thing. I have never even opened a Bible before. Yeah. Can you kind of tutor me so that I can survive in this Bible 101 class? And I thought, man, look at you go, God. Because I'd been praying for her already, know, and asking God to reveal himself to this woman who's come onto the scene here. And plus she was quite cute. So I wanted her to be a Christian, so so I could date her. So, I mean, it's full disclosure there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So over the course of time, we began to talk about Jesus and the Bible, and at some point, she asked me, "How do I know the difference? I've been raised my whole life to believe that the path of Islam is the way. Muhammad is Allah's only prophet." I'm not sure how much I believe that, but I practiced this my whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, those weren't exactly the words she said, but that's kind of, my interpretation. And so how do I know the difference? Of course, this was 4 or 6 months after knowing her. It wasn't like the second week.
Yeah.
And I said, I've got a real hard one here, hard answer for you, but why don't you just ask him?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, what do you mean just ask him? I said, well, pray. Do you ever pray to Allah? Well, I know some prayers. I said, well, pray to Allah. Ask him if he's the true God. Pray to Jesus and ask him, are you the true God? See who answers.
Oh.
And so what happened was about several weeks into this, all her friends were these Christian kids who were hanging out with her, and we were all InterVarsity, Baptist Student Union, people like that, hanging out with her. And so she asked all of us to stop hanging out with her. Like, you guys are influencing me in a way that I think you're turning me against my religion. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, those aren't her exact words. Yeah. Remember, this is over 40 years ago.
Yeah. We're getting the gist of it. That's fine.
But I'm also remembering she's going to be listening to this, and if I don't get it right, I'm in trouble. So basically, she wasn't rude about it, but she basically said, I need some space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right? That's what she was saying. I need some space. And so we gave her her space, and I don't know how long it was, maybe a month or so. Mm-hmm. And we hadn't been hanging out with her. We hadn't seen her a whole lot. It's a small campus, so you see her, but you can okay, you get your space. Yeah. She came knocking on my dorm and said, "Guess what? Jesus spoke to me." Aww. And I said, "What?" I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
It's a faith builder now, but back then it was the beginning of my faith. I'd only been a Christian about 2 years, and so. So I was like, wow, he did. Tell me about it. And she had a dream, a vision, where she felt very strongly that Jesus was just saying, follow me, I'm the one. And so she came to me, she goes, I'm in. What's next? And so for a year after that, there was a woman in the InterVarsity group, kind of an older woman, more mature Christian, but also a student who discipled her. Her name was Gwen, and Gwen discipled her, and then she finally mustered up the courage to tell her parents. Now, the thing about her parents was they were in foreign affairs. He was with the government, and so which means she lived around the world a lot. She's lived in 6 different countries, I think, and so. It's very important for their family to have the appearance of, we're part of the Indonesian team, and most of Indonesia's Muslim, the largest Islamic country in the world, in fact.
Oh, wow.
And so, so there's a little bit of losing faith. Your own daughter of a diplomat becomes a Christian, but they loved her dearly, and they were at the time stationed in North Africa. He was an ambassador there, and so he said, why don't you come home, and why don't you let's talk about this decision to, abandon Islam and follow Christianity. And it's Christmas break. Urbana, the InterVarsity's missions conference, was up. So we went to Urbana, and then she caught a plane and flew to North Africa, where they promptly said, you know what? We think you should stay. In fact, we're taking your passport.
Oh,
you do have to stay. Forget America, forget Christianity. They didn't know about me. By then, we were madly in love, and I had proposed to her. I proposed to her just like 3 weeks before she left. And so they didn't even know about me. And so they did. They took everything away from her and said they enrolled her in school there. And so for the next 6 months, I didn't see her. I had graduated university, so I was done. And I was just kind of like, well, what are we going to do? And it was a long 6 months.
Yeah.
The short version is eventually she obtained her passport. They kind of loosened their guard, if you will. I mean, she wasn't under lock and key. Don't misunderstand. And they loved her dearly.
Yeah.
And they thought they were doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, so she was free to move about. And a guy here in Chattanooga actually loaned me the money to give her an open-ended ticket at the airport. So she walks up to the airline desk and says, "Here's my ID." And they said, "Okay, you can be on this next plane to Atlanta, Georgia." But sorry, it's already boarded and the gate's closed. And she started crying right on the spot. And then they looked at her passport and realized she was a diplomat because she had a diplomatic passport. Oh, well, we'll open the doors of the plane for you.
Oh, wow.
So, you can say diplomat or God, you can, God used the diplomacy angle, whatever, but opened the plane and eventually she left. Well, for the first almost month, they had no idea, probably not a month, maybe a couple of weeks. They had no idea where she was. They thought someone had kidnapped her. So eventually her sister calls me and says, "Hey, you remember my sister? Her name was Lisa." They called her Lisa. And they said, "Lisa is gone. You may know about this. She may be in touch with you, but we're not sure. We're worried to death." The police are looking for her. I don't know the whole story, what happened, but I said, actually, I do remember her. And I know where she is. It wasn't 2 weeks. It must have been a week because she was still in Atlanta and I was living in Arkansas at the time. And so it was within that week. And I said, she's in the U.S. I won't tell you where she is, but she's here and she's safe and she left on her own accord. Well, needless to say, they were not happy to hear that. And her dad did everything he could to pull all the strings he could to get her kicked out of the U.S. I don't think there was ICE back in those days. So they certainly would have got her, though, if she would have. But they weren't there, and they didn't. And so we rushed and got a wedding and had a wedding in 2 weeks.
Oh, man.
Yeah. The theme of our wedding was "In His Time." You remember that song, the Maranatha song?
He makes all things beautiful.
Yeah, that's right.
In His time.
We had that. Her dad called her on our wedding day and said, "Are you sure about this?" And said, "Yep." And so that's the last time she talked to her dad. He passed away not too long after that. And but yeah, that's her story. So those 6 months were hard. There's a lot of amazing things that this podcast doesn't have time to dive into. You could have a whole special podcast with her here, and she could tell you some stories. So future podcast idea. But so that's how it happened. That was 40 years ago. May of 1985. That was 40 years ago in May. Yeah. So
well, we're reading a book together as the adult discipleship team called A Praying Church by Paul Tripp. And one of the things that he challenges the church to do in that book is to pray big prayers. And I love that, even though your faith was not in a place where you were like, I know that if you pray to Jesus, he will answer you. But you asked her to pray a big prayer and it's set into motion, like a really beautiful story of redemption. And I think that's just encouraging to my heart to think about, what am I afraid to ask God to do? What if I just prayed big prayers and see what he does with that? He can do anything.
And those become faith builders for us too, right? I can look back 40 years from now and go, that I've seen God's hand in that, and that gives me more faith to pray bigger prayers.
And as the church, when we hear each other's stories, my faith is encouraged by that story. And so that's why it's so important for us. And we'll talk about this more in 2026 as we enter into our year of prayer, why it's so important to share with one another, these stories of God's faithfulness to us. So thank you for sharing. That's such a wonderful story.
Thanks so much.
And now I just want to talk to Aisyah all the more.
That's right.
Aisyah, her deal about her story is that she doesn't mind sharing it. She wants to give God the glory, and she doesn't want people just to be interested in the drama of her story, right? Yeah. Which I would be the same way. Yeah. And she also, it's a very tender, 40 years later, it's still very tender to her. Yeah. And so it brings up a lot of emotions for her. So she likes having me there when she shares her story, and sometimes when she starts crying, I just have to pick in and take over the story there. But I'm sure she'd love to share it with you sometime, Abby.
Be fun.
That's great. That's great. Ken, I would love to hear a little bit about your story and one particular part. And one of the things that our search committee really appreciated about our conversations with you is that while you have been in ministry almost all of your professional life, you also follow Jesus not only because you get paid to do it, but alongside that, there's a sense that like your primary calling is to follow Jesus. Your secondary calling may be to work at a church, or that's really kind of what has brought you to Chattanooga. Is your mother is her health is not great. She has memory loss, and so you wanted to be here with her. But one of the things you shared with us at our search committee was a season of life where you followed Jesus and kind of did the next faithful thing in a way that you didn't exactly understand what was going on. And then the Lord sort of at the end of that season really showed you what he was up to. I'd love for you to tell us that story.
Yeah, and it's the same thing, what we were just talking about. It's a faith builder.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm able to move here to Chattanooga, not sure what's next for me, because 20-something years ago, I had a crazy experience, I think. And I was telling Abby and Joy, for all those faithful listeners, that I'm still mad at God about this. But I was working for InterVarsity. And as a lot of you know, parachurches like InterVarsity, the staff have to raise their own financial support. I was at a place where my supervisors were saying, we've got to stop the bleeding. Your support raising is not going great. So we have to cut your salary. And I had two young kids. We were living in Kansas City, Kansas City area at the time. And and I was sitting out on a mountain top, literally in Colorado Springs at a summer camp for InterVarsity. And I was asking God, what in the world, how can I love my family and do extra fun? What am I supposed to do here, God? And this doesn't happen a whole lot in my life, but I clearly heard from God, you need to get a job at the convenience store on the corner down by your house. I'm like, that is so weird. And surely, yeah, that's just,
surely it's
that
the
just,
altitude sickness.
yeah. Or it's just kind of, you think, did that just pop into my head, or is that God, right?
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward a month later, I'm back in Kansas, and I'm at this gas station actually getting gas. These were the days where you had to go inside and pay. And so I'm inside paying, and I'm like, oh, I remember that. I really had forgotten it, to be honest. Mm-hmm. So when I go in the store, all of a sudden this memory comes back, and this woman is working the cash register, and I walk up there real confidently and say, you probably don't need any help, do you? That's a great way to ask for a job. And she goes, you mean like with your order, or you mean, are we hiring? And I said, oh, are you hiring? You're probably not hiring, are you? And she said, actually, we are. And I said, well, I'll come back later. And no, actually, the owner is here, and he's never here. And he's here now. You should talk to him. I go, well, I don't want to bother him, And I was doing everything I could to not apply for a job there. She goes, well, if you want to work here, you should do it, And so I thought, oh, surely not. So I went back there, and I talked to the guy, and he's like, yep, you're hired. I mean, I didn't even fill an application. And so then he calls me that night and says, I want you to work at the liquor store next door, not the convenience store. And I'm like, I'm a pastor for college students.
I'm not sure about this.
I'm not saying selling liquor is necessarily immoral or evil. I'm not making any judgment, but just wouldn't look at, oh, yeah, I get that. You Christians, I get it. And so he said, but you can work at the convenience store. And so that began me. I cut back my salary at the InterVarsity and supplemented my salary by working at the convenience store part-time. And I stayed there for 6 months. Over the course of 6 months, that same woman that was the cashier running the till there where I first saw her was the person I work with. Her name is Tess. And over the course of time, Tess and I talked a lot. And I never shy away from sharing about my faith. I try not to be obnoxious about it, but I shared Jesus with her, and I told her about Jesus. And at some point, she looked at me and said, well, what's to keep me from following Jesus?
My goodness.
And I'm like, not a thing. Not a thing. She goes, well, my husband won't be too happy about it. She said, but I want to follow him. I want what you have, you know. And so she became a Christian.
That's
And
incredible.
and so here's another Urbana piece. Urbana was coming up again. I was working for InterVarsity, and so plug for Urbana. This is Urbana year, I think, too. So
right,
I was working for InterVarsity. So I went to Urbana, and I had told the guy, the owner, that I'm going to be gone for a week, and he got someone to cover my shift, so forth. So I come back from Urbana.
And Urbana is the National Conference of InterVarsity.
It's the international conference.
Yeah.
I'll just have to say Canadians started it, so it's an international.
It's not American.
It started in Canada. The first Urbana was in Toronto. So at any rate, so I come back and I'm not on the schedule. I almost said it, didn't I? Schedule. I'm on the schedule, and so I said, "What's the deal?" And he goes, "Well, we thought you quit." I'm like, "What?" Anyway, I go back home frustrated, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I get a call from my boss. "Hey, your fundraiser's going great. We're bumping your salary back."
Oh my goodness.
And sure enough, I was mad at
Yeah.
God.
I'm bad for you.
I'm like, you mean, because what I did was I looked at Tess and I said, "God, do you mean for these last 6 months, it was just for Tess?" And he's like, "Yes.
Yes.
I died for her.
Yeah.
You can work at a convenience store for 6 months." And so that really did put things in perspective. But, and so that, you know, when I think of, okay, my mom is not doing great. So full circle on your question here, and we can move on. But I don't know what this looks like. I'm not even looking for a job. I'm just going to decide to move back and be there for my mom. And I have to be honest, Vancouver is much more beautiful than Chattanooga, even though Chattanooga is nice. I love Chattanooga. I grew up here. So I don't know if you guys caught that from the beginning. This is where I grew up. But we loved Vancouver. I was a pastor of a church there, and I loved that church. They loved me. And so it was really hard to say we're leaving. It really was. But shortly after, like a month later, after we already announced our resignation that we were leaving, was when I got in touch with Signal Mountain Press. And so I didn't know I was coming here. I just knew I was coming to Chattanooga to be with my mom.
Yeah. It's great. Yeah. Yeah. And what a great thing. I mean, I do think we are many of the people who listen to this podcast and who are on Signal Mountain we are able to, we have options, right? We have choices. And sometimes like having choices makes following Jesus a lot more complicated than it actually is, right? When simply like doing the next faithful thing and then seeing all the good ways that he like surprises us is like the good thing. And so sometimes it's like, how do I love the people that are in front of me? Like I don't have to ask big questions about like, what's my 5-year plan? What's my 10-year plan? It's just like, who's in front of me and how do I love them? And that's what I appreciate about your story and what's brought you here.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And what's brought you here specifically is discipling men. So tell us about why when the job description came your way, you were like, yeah, this is something that I'm excited about, passionate about, and feel called and gifted towards.
I think that most churches aren't looking to hire 64-year-old pastor kind of, ministry kind of people. And so I actually didn't think I would even work at a church. And I called a friend, said, "Hey, I'm coming back to Chattanooga, blah, blah, blah." And so I was sent the job description, and I couldn't believe, as I looked at the job description, how many things just fit with me. Because if you have I think you said, no, maybe it was Jackie. Somebody said they like checklists. Might have been Cindy.
That was Jackie.
Okay, I thought so. It would have checked off probably 90% of the things on I would love to do this kind of list. I do have that 10% that I don't love, but about any job. But I just thought that's amazing because what I've seen in my life, my years with InterVarsity and the different churches for whom I've worked, is that where God has used me the most has been in relationships, specifically with men. No, exactly with men. I really haven't had any one-on-one relationships with other women than my wife and daughter that I can think of, other than people who I've worked with. And so, I did this class a long time ago by Bobby Clinton, and then I redid it like 15 years ago, 12 years ago. and in it, we looked at all the different things where God's worked in our lives and seen what those markers are and events and so forth, so on. I won't bore you with the thing. But as I stood back and looked at it, I realized that everything where God's used me in the ways that give him and me the most pleasure has been discipling men.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, my wife started collecting photographs that she wants to print and put in my office of all the different men that I've had relationships with.
Aww.
And I thought, there's a lot,
Yeah.
you know. And so that's my heart, is to say, you know, I love it when someone has poured into me. I have loved pouring into other people. And what we were talking about in the men's Bible study this morning is that when we feel and experience and know God's love, our response should be, and we hope we want it to be more, is to love back, love others, follow what he wants for us, and live under his rule. And there's where I've seen God's pleasure. What is at the Chariots of Fire? God's pleasure when I run.
Oh, Jenny.
Yeah.
God made me for China. Sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, dear.
That sounded exactly like it, actually. It's very good, Joey.
Practice that.
Yeah.
Carry on, Ken.
Actually, I was done. I found God's pleasure the most in these kinds of things. And I've never had a vocational ministry experience where this was just all I did. I've always been preaching or administrating or something like this.
Yeah.
So I'm actually looking forward to a season of not preaching, not preparing sermons every week, and to just being investing in lives of guys, and then building programs that can facilitate people to closer and more spiritual formation in their lives. So
That's great.
That's great.
It's also just really kind of God that you made the decision to move here to care for your mom, and he said, and in that I'm going to care for you. I'm gonna do something for you.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way. Thank you,
It's really
Abby.
sweet.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, we're gonna do our final 5. Okay, lightning round, final 5. What right now, Ken? What does reading the Bible look like for you?
I am 5 days a week immersed in the upper room discourse, and John.
That's the correct answer. Yes, thank you.
It is true, and I'm the InterVarsity manuscript inductive Bible study. If you've done precepts, they do something similar. So I've printed out every pericope, every section, and I've been marking it up, but also been going through these wonderful study questions that someone put together for us, and love those. I don't know. It's probably they've contracted out because it's so well done.
Thanks, Ken.
So I've been doing that, and then also I love to listen to scripture. And so I'll go for walks, and I have a podcast, 2 different podcasts I listen to. On the walk, it's just a 15-minute one, and so it's called Pray As You Go. And it's kind of an examine sort of thing where you listen to it and you listen to it again, and they challenge you with some questions to think about. So I love doing that. So that's kind of random, whatever. Well, the Pray As You Go, they follow a order from the Catholic Book of Prayer, I think. The other one I listen to, which is on my commute up, which is about a 30-minute commute every morning, it's called Abide. And it also is an examine sort of thing, and they'll read it about 6 times, and they'll read it in different versions of the scriptures and allow you to interact with it that way. So those are the kinds of things where I am. And I'll read a book or 2 also, other than the Bible, that is centered around scripture and around teaching me something from the Bible.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great. Excellent. So carrying along that theme what is a passage of scripture that has been particularly important to you, whether in a recent season or over the long haul of your life with Jesus?
Well, my wife and I love the book of Leviticus. We love rules. We love binding them over our children, and we love creating them. We would put things up all over the house. If you do this, this will be the result of that. And so we love Leviticus and all the legalism of Leviticus.
This is the moment where I'm like, I can't tell if he's joking or not.
I intentionally kept a straight face for you.
Yes, you did. Every time. It gets me. And I'm just sitting here nodding and smiling. I'm like, oh, okay.
So I invite, on a more serious note, my wife and I are not into legalism at all. So just make sure you know that. But, Leviticus is good. However, I wouldn't say that's the most important one for me. If you come to my office, you will see once the construction is done, you'll see 3 paintings, and one of them is a painting of a shepherd who's out on the edge of a cliff looking for a sheep that's lost. Another one is a woman who has she's got these coins around her head, and one of them is misplaced. And another one is a Rembrandt print of the Return of the Prodigal. And so therefore, always probably almost all my ministry life, one of the most important passages has always been Luke 15 for me. The reason that's important is because in it, I hear God's heart. And the Pharisees and the teachers of the law are criticizing Jesus because he's hanging out with the riffraff. And I think Jesus thinks, oh, they just don't understand the heart of my Father. I will tell them these 3 stories. You know, we don't know at the end of Luke 15 whether they get it or not. It seems like they don't. But nonetheless, that passage shows me the heart of the Father, and I want to think that there was a party thrown in heaven for me one day, you know, back when I said yes to Jesus, and for you guys as well. But also this whole idea of looking for and longing for and celebrating people when they come to Jesus. So that's my favorite. That's hands down. Didn't even have to think about that one.
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
The God who loves lost things. So, so if we're most likely to find you in Luke 15, where are we least likely to find you willingly reading?
Yeah, probably Revelation. Just because I find it so hard to understand, even though I've read probably, I don't know how many books on it. It's in one sense, it's exciting for me, some of the things I understand, but it's so, to me, it feels convoluted. I know I have a good friend, Darrell Johnson, who's a theologian who has written about this, and he would just be shaking his head like, oh my gosh. So
that's right. Letters from the Edge or something like that. What's his commentary? Something.
No,
like
but close. We'll have to look it up.
Like
I'm
that.
terrible at remembering names of books. But that's not
and
it.
you're supposed to be good at this. This is your party trick.
I know.
You're familiar with Darrell Johnson. Did you take a class from him?
I have listened to his lectures on discipleship and preaching, and I'm a fan of his.
Discipleship is part of the title of that book.
Maybe Discipleship on the Edge. Maybe that's what it is.
Something like that.
Something like that. Anyways, we digress. But that's great. Yeah. You're the first person to choose a New Testament book for that letter, because most of it's usually Song of Solomon, Leviticus, Proverbs.
Well, that's why I chose Leviticus, because I have been a faithful podcast listener for the last 6 months.
Yes.
And I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm going to choose that as my favorite and just mess with it.
That's right.
Just a mess, especially with Abby. I'm very trusting, guys. It's not fair.
Many good times ahead with you, Abby.
I know.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
It's great. Well, who has shown you the love of Jesus in your life?
Well, there's a lot of people, but I will focus on my grandmother. We called her Big Mama, and she was not big.
That's what I want my grandmother name to be. Not even a joke. I'm not even messing with you. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry. Tell us about Big Mama.
No, yeah. Little Big Mama. She kind of took me under her wing when my folks divorced when I was 4. And so we moved in with my grandparents, and my sister was kind of my grandfather's favorite. Then my daughter became his favorite later on. So he obviously had favorites. And so we won't go there. But, so I didn't have a dad, and he didn't really give me a lot of attention. So she decided, I'm taking this one on. Big Mama, also Big Mama was faithful to Jesus. She loved Jesus, and she loved people unconditionally. And so I just felt unconditional love from my Big Mama my whole life. And at one point, I think I was still in high school, she told me that she thought God had his hand on me, and if I would ever repent of my smoking, drinking, and chewing and dating girls who do, he was going to do something with me. And I was like, yeah, whatever, Big Mama. You know,
Big Mama was right.
She was. So it's Big
beautiful.
Mama to answer your question.
I love
great.
that.
Yeah, that's great.
My mom has, as well as my wife and my children, have shown me that too as well. But since we just get to pick one, I'm picking Big Mama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really great. All right. So send us out by telling us something interesting we wouldn't know about you. Which is probably most things since you're new.
Yeah. I don't know if it's really interesting, but it is something you don't know, is that I mentioned that when Aisyah returned from North Africa, I was living in Arkansas. I was a ranch hand. Graduated with a degree in philosophy and worked at a ranch. So there was this ranch in northern Arkansas, Yellville, Arkansas, where they had the annual Turkey Trot Festival, where they dropped turkeys from an airplane at low altitudes.
That sounds dangerous.
Absolutely. And it's amazing to see. Believe it or not, though, turkeys can fly. They would break their fall. They wouldn't splat. And so anyway, I was living in Yellville, Arkansas at this ranch for a whole year as a ranch hand and a counselor, and there's air quotes because you can't see that on the podcast, for juvenile delinquent boys. I was a house parent. But they would go to school and I would work on the ranch, and everything was done on horseback. So I spent a year on the back of a horse and working at a ranch. I thought I was a cowboy that year.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
You were.
On a horse, dodging turkeys being dropped.
The mental picture is amazing.
6 months into that was when Aisyah returned. And so she married into a job on a ranch.
Oh, you're right.
With juvenile delinquents.
Juvenile delinquents.
And we turkeys falling out of the sky.
We lived in a bunkhouse where we were upstairs and the high school boys were downstairs. And I couldn't even stand up straight. It was an A-frame. And the only place I could stand up was at the apex of the A-frame. So I had to do everything. Even my shower was kind of strange to take a shower because it wasn't in the apex. You know? So it was a bend over, take a shower.
Wow.
So there you go.
So
there you go.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That is fun. That's
awesome.
A fun fact about Ken.
Yes. So many fun facts we learned about you on the podcast today. So great to have you with us. Glad you're here on the team. And if you're listening and if you are a man at Signal Pres and have not yet found a place where you can plug in or grow, or if you're just looking for somebody who would walk with you for a season, this is the guy to talk to, Ken Pierce. And I know he'd love to do that. And so thanks for listening. Keep memorizing.
Keep doing it, guys.
Keep doing it. Keep it up. John
you can
15,
do this. I believe in you.
You won't regret it. Keep abiding. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the Signal Pres podcast. I want to thank our extensive production team, beginning with Matt Broom, sound man extraordinaire.
And thank you to Hannah Sutton and Jackie Carpenter for helping us out with all of our technical difficulties and making it possible for you to listen to this podcast.